This is Rockin' with Jam Man. Is with Mark Steen. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, man. Just so the
Good.
record, my name's pronounced with a long I, Stein.
Stein. Okay.
Just so you know, that's all. No big deal.
Sorry about
Okay,
that.
no worries.
Okay. So congratulations on your first solo album. There's the light. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
It's the first, yeah.
so I see you used your time during the lockdown wisely and made this album. Is that right?
Yeah, during the lockdown, I had written a song called "We Are One" about 5 weeks into the pandemic, which would have been around April of 2020.
Hmm.
And I just this idea came to me, and I'd written the lyrics and the music on the piano in about 2 days, and I needed to find a studio. I needed to find a way to record it. So during the pandemic, everything was pretty closed down, So, but a friend of mine by the name of Alan Hewitt, who plays keyboards with John Lodge and the Moody Blues, who's a really, popular classic rock band. He invited me to his house. He's got a really cool keyboard studio at his house. So we laid down a piano track with a click track. And so what I did was I had the file sent over to a buddy of mine's studio over in Martin County in South Florida, where I live. And his name is Joey Z. He's got a place called Blue Porch Media. So we had the file sent over there because Alan got like really crazy busy. So anyway, I laid down all the vocals. I did the lead vocals and I multi-tracked all my own backing vocals on the song. And I laid down a really cool synthesizer orchestra, strings. And we were really happy with the way it sounded. So I need to put down drums and bass on it. So I called my buddy Stevie D over at New Jersey. So my mind escapes me. The Sound Spa, that's the name of the studio. Sorry, Stevie. So he was able to, he's a great guitar player. So he put some guitars on it, and he actually played bass, and he put a drum program on it. So there's only 2 people on the track, but it sounds really cool. We're really happy with it, and people are digging it. I don't know if you've heard the song "We Are One," but it's the
I
first
did.
single.
I
Oh,
did.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I hope you like it. And the video
It was awesome, man.
out. Oh, cool. And so that's how it kind of started. I started chopping a deal, and most of the labels were interested in a full album. So long story short, I had a bunch of tracks in the can, and songs like Ball of Confusion and We Are Survivors, and songs like People Gotta Be Free, which is a cover of the old Rascals tune. And all the songs kind of blended together in the theme of love, hope, and controversial issues which we're all faced with in the world today. I called the albums "There's a Light" because in the song "We Are One," one of the lines is, "There's a light that burns so deep within us. If only we could find a way to keep it turned on." In other words, keep a positive attitude, and life could be a lot better going forward. So Deco Entertainment, Deco Records really liked the songs that I came up with, and we put a deal together with them, and that's how the album came to pass. And it'll be released pretty soon, November 26th.
Okay.
And also, Ball of Confusion, we just finished the video, which I think is really exciting. That's going to be the second single, and that's going to be released on Monday. So check that out. That's going to be released on all formats.
That's awesome, man. Cool.
Thank you.
And you used all the craziness that went through during the time as the inspiration to this album. Is that right?
Yeah. Again, there's a lot of craziness, a lot of political issues, a lot of racial issues, economic issues, but there's a lot of love and hope that's kind of intertwined with all these songs too. So it's very positive going forward.
Would you say this is a political album like they used to make in the 60s?
Well, some people might think some of the songs are, but it's the songs like Ball of Confusion, that's how that's how the world is today. It's a crazy world with everything going on. There's also songs called Lion, which is really like a love song about someone, that someone had lost someone. I mean, it can be relative to, there's so many lives were lost in a pandemic and loved ones were lost in a pandemic. So this song Lion can be dedicated to all those that lost a loved one during the pandemic. And of course, We Are One is a song of hope. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a combination of things. So when you talk about political, maybe there's a song called All Lives Matter on there that could be a little political. But I think it's an interesting concept. But again, there's a potpourri of love, hope, and all kinds of good stuff on it.
Now, did you ever imagine that you would live to see all the craziness, let alone in this one year?
Well, don't forget, I'm from the 60s. There was a lot of craziness in the 60s. There was a lot of racial unrest. There was a Vietnam War. And there was...
Hipsters.
Huh?
It was all just hipsters and peace and love, man.
Yeah, well, it was peace and love, but in the background of Vietnam War and when Martin Luther King was at the helm and preaching, peace without violence, that was a heavy duty theme going on. And, when Vanilla Fudge was on tour in the Deep South, he was assassinated back then. So, when we were playing some shows in the South, there was Molotov cocktails and mini riots going on. So, when I was, 19, 20, 21 years old, I was experienced a lot of craziness in the 60s too.
But this album is about overcoming all this and everyone coming together. Is that right?
Right. It's an album about the way the world, I feel, used to be, the way it is today, and hope for the future. So there's a lot of messages on there. So I'm hoping people, will take to it and feel real positive about the future going forward.
Your song "We Are One" is a very powerful and it has a great message.
Thank you.
Now let's take it back and talk about Vanilla Fudge.
Okay.
Now you're one of the few bands that uses you as an organ in the rock that makes it work. There is you and the Doors and Yes and Iron Butterfly.
Right.
What did you figure out? What did you figure out that the sound would work?
Well, I mean, when I was maybe 19 years old, I was influenced, by the great Jimmy Smith on record, jazz, funk or Hammond B3 player who was awesome. And when I first saw Felix Cavalieri from the Young Rascals, who were a very famous band back in the late 60s, I was heavily inspired by his B3 playing, his Hammond playing. So that's when I went to get my hammer with my dad. He helped me buy it, and I spent a lot of time learning how to use it. And then there was a time when I saw a band called the Vagrants who were taking songs and putting a lot of drama and dynamics to them and slowing them down, making them into production numbers, which really inspired me that way too. So I guess my organ playing, I used my organ as on the very first Vanilla Fudge album. I looked at it like it was an orchestra. I used to get, I wasn't playing it that long, but I really had this ability to get all these really cool orchestral sounds out of a Hammond organ that at the time cats weren't really doing. So that was my initial direction with it.
So you guys used to be managed by a mobster, Phillip Basile, mobster. How did you hook up with him?
Yeah, Phillip Basile. Yeah.
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 How did you hook up with him?
Well, the story goes that my dad, when Vanilla Fudge first got together, we were rehearsing for about a week, and my dad actually called him in Long Island. He was managing a club called the Action House, and he set up an audition for us. So we went out to Long Island, and Philly really liked the band, and he wanted to manage us and help us get us started. So we started playing in his clubs, and around Long Island. We started playing up in Newport, Rhode Island. We started to develop a following. And it's funny you bring up that he was a mobster, because we really didn't know that at the time until after the fact. But they certainly had a lot of influence on getting the band started and getting us played on the radio in those early days. Yeah.
Yeah. Is he a friend of yours or is he a friend of ours?
I'm sorry?
Is he a friend of yours or is he a friend of ours?
Well, when we first hooked up, I thought he was a very good friend, you know. He took us on and embraced us and actually, you know, subsidized us with funds so we didn't have to go out and get a day job. So he, you know, advanced us enough money so we could keep playing and develop our craft. So he was a friend in that sense of the word, for sure. God bless you.
I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I'm sorry.
We're all good.
Thank you. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. It's all the human factor. Nothing to be worried about.
Now, Carmen told me that Henry Hill used to come over and sell him stuff that fell off the back of a truck and gave him some of his first pieces of equipment for the recording music for him. Is that right, Emma?
Yeah, I mean, I can remember a time when we'd meet in the back of the Action House, and Henry would open up the back of his caddy and there'd be clothes and suits from France and tape recorders, and you know, he sold it to us like for pennies on the dollar. Yeah,
like the whole shebang, man.
That was a fact. It was like, I mean, you know, if you see that mob movie Goodfellas, I mean, we were really like part of that whole evolvement. That the story of Henry Hill. I mean, me and Henry used to hang out. I mean, you know, at the time it was, you know, when Vanilla Fudge became famous, it wasn't only, you know, from our exposure on the radio and who we were as pop stars, but it was also at the time who we were hooked up with. So, yeah, so it was an exciting time for sure.
Wow, man, mobsters really do help you out. When I start a band, I got to find a mobster. That's all I got to do.
Yeah, well, be careful. Yeah.
Did you ever record any off of that stuff? Of the equipment?
Not that I recall. No, I'm really, honestly, not that I recall. Nothing professionally anyway, maybe privately, but I don't recall.
When did you stop working with Phillip?
Well, that's a good question. The relationship, you know, when the band broke up, we reformed to do a record. We had a couple of opportunities over the years, and he was always at the center of putting deals together with him, and also, you know, our lawyer, the late Steve Weiss. So they were kind of like a, you know, a management team and legal team, and you know, and Steve Weiss also represented Jeff Beck and ultimately the Rascals and ultimately Led Zeppelin. So it was a real it was a power team. So, but even as late as I think in the 80s, even when we did an album called Mystery, we had put together another deal with Atlantic around the early 80s. So I would say the last time we were actually involved with it would be around that time.
Now you guys are known from your amazing covers that turned in your own songs, right?
Yeah, reimagined versions of Beatles songs and Motown songs.
When did you know that the Supreme songs "You Keep Hanging On" was going to be the next big rock song?
Well, I was listening to the song with our bass player, the late Tim Bogert, around 1965 in New York City. We were hanging out, had the radio on, and "You Keep Hanging On" by the Supremes came on the air, and we just said, "Wow, that sounds like a good song to slow down and put some drama to it." And that's what we did. I went to work on it with the keyboard intros, and Vinnie Martel had a great guitar lick, and we got together and worked on it. Carmine and Tim met us at the club, the discotheque we were playing in called Angano's on the on the west side of New York City, Midtown at that time. And we worked on the arrangement, and we knew we had something special when it was done. That's when we knew, you know, and we started playing it for people. Everybody was freaking out at the new sound and the new approach to rock music.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
it was.
It definitely was. Definitely does
It
sound
was
like
an
it, man.
awesome time. It was a very creative time, and when that first album came out, it was huge. And Vanilla Fudge was right there at the center of the pop music universe. So
Mm.
and we toured with everybody. We toured with everybody that was there, man. You know, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, the Cream, bands, pop bands like the Fifth Dimension, Sonny and Cher. I mean, you name it. We were Canned Heat, blues bands. It was really, we were very fortunate to be a part of that. So I feel blessed.
Now your first album was huge and turned you guys into superstars. What is up with your second album, The Beat Goes On?
Yeah, well, that was the brainstorm of our producer, the late Shadow Morton. Shadow, you know, he was a great producer in those days. He was producing like big hits, you know, from the like girl groups for like the Shangri-Las and Janice Ian and a whole bunch of people. That was kind of like his brainchild. I think it was probably an overly ambitious fantasy that he had, and I don't know, everybody thought at the time it was a cool thing, but it was a complete role reversal of what we did with the first album. And really the only redeeming quality in my view on that record was our arrangement of Moonlight Sonata, which stands up pretty good. But unfortunately the market didn't take too well to it, so it was something we had to overcome when it was released. And it's just one of those things. In retrospect, it probably shouldn't happen, but it did. And we went on and did our best to recover from it with an album called Renaissance, which was a record of mostly original material. And so we went on from there.
Who came up with the concept of the album?
The Beat Goes On?
Yes.
Well, as I mentioned, it was the brainchild of the producer at the time, Shadow Morton, George Shadow Morton. He wanted to do the way time and music evolved from the 18th century up to the present at the time. And in theory, it sounded like a pretty fantastic idea, but you know, when it was all put together, unfortunately, I guess it just didn't play out the way he thought it would. So.
And there really was not a lot of singing on it, but I really like the track You Can't Do That.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Maybe you should have told George Morton, you can't do that, with some of the choices he made on that album.
Yeah, well, I wish you were around at that time, kiddo, to say that to him. Yeah, I agree with you.
Oh, sorry. Now I read that you guys were known for trashing hotel rooms. Is that true?
Well, I can't really speak to that. I really wasn't part of that, but that was part of the classic rock bands thing back in those days, you know. That's about all I have to say about it.
It definitely was back in the golden rock ages. Everybody, as soon as you were popular and you got to a whole hotel room,
yeah.
R.I.P. to that hotel room. It's gone. That hotel room is gonna be dead.
Oh wow. Well, yeah, it was part of the madness of it all. So it all went with the territory, I guess, at one time.
It's not just you guys. A lot of bands from that era did that stuff. It was not just you guys. It was just
no, of course, yeah.
Why do you think you guys were allowed to get away with those crazy antics back in the day?
Well, it was a very liberal time. You know, it was a time of musical peace, renaissance, the Haight-Ashbury days, you know, all the rock concerts. Everybody was just into being free. And I mean, we didn't really participate in things that were that crazy, that we had to get away with things, you know. I don't know. It was just a crazy time, and sometimes things from that era that was just expected. It was like the norm.
But that kind of stuff was the rock and roll was all about, man. Getting wild, crazy parties, living your best life, making amazing music. That was the rock and roll lifestyle,
That
you
was
know?
the lifestyle. Yeah, it was staying up all night, partying with your friends, partying with the bands. I mean, I recall partying with Led Zeppelin when they first started out. We were really popular, and we partied with that's what you did in those days. Yeah.
I mean, it's sad. The kids nowadays will never know nothing about that. I mean, we have safe spaces for Christ's sake. If people say something mean to them, it's like a complete turnaround from how things were.
Yeah. Well, it was a whole different era.
Yeah,
It was a whole different culture. Things today are, completely different.
everybody just cries now because everybody just makes sad music. Everybody who makes sad music gets popular. That's all. That's all
Yeah.
it is. Nobody gets to enjoy it. Like, yeah, everybody just like, yeah, keep going. Man.
Well, I mean, somewhat, but I think there's still some pretty crazy rockers still out there that still enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But can you say anyone from nowadays that is good? Can you just say that?
I'm sorry?
Could you name someone that is good nowadays?
Someone that's good right now?
Yeah, like someone that's really good right now. Like how a new band.
A new band. Oh, well, that's a good question.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry.
It's okay, man. I'm just like if you see what I was trying to say.
Oh yeah, I'm just thinking. Yeah, I mean, there's some great bands out there, but brand new bands, I don't know. I don't know if there's really any, heavy rock bands out there that are putting out new music right now. Most of the music's putting out by classic rock bands.
Mm.
Trying to get it on the radio, which is kind of hard because the formats stay with with the old rotation. So.
What was some of the wildest stuff that you did back in the day?
The wildest stuff I did?
Yes.
Well, you know what? You're gonna have to read about that in my book.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry. You're gonna have to get a book called "You Keep Me Hanging On: The Raging Story of Rock Music's Golden Age." Okay.
Okay.
Just don't forget, I got grandchildren today too, so I don't want hearing about some of this stuff, but you could read about some of it.
Okay. Yeah,
You
but
know?
yeah, I'm actually a pretty good reader in school actually. Very good
Cool.
reader.
What's at mark-stein.com?
Okay.
Get
All
a
right.
signed and numbered copy, or you can get it at Amazon.
All right. Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
Now I know I am a young and you can't get into any details, but what's the mud shark incident a real thing?
Well, I'm told about that. I don't know. That's like, was it real or was it fantasy? I guess you'll have to listen to all the stories you've heard about it and make up your own mind.
The only
That's
thing I
pretty
heard
much all
about
I need to say about it.
it. I thank you, man. I'm sorry. Just that I try to research it and I don't get that much things, but some things I try to confirm it with my dad and he says no, it's totally not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen to your dad. He knows best.
Were you guys asked to play Woodstock? Were you guys asked to?
I believe we were asked to, but at the time we weren't getting on together, and we were pretty close to breaking up, and probably a big mistake, because we should have played it because it gave everybody that played there eternal fame, So
Yeah.
we kind of, we took a wrong turn there, boy. So yeah.
Thank God it wasn't 99.
Well, but we did play. You know why? Because we played like the Palm Beach, Florida, and the Miami Pop Festival. We played the Seattle Pop Festival. It was like 50,000 people there, and we were on the bill with the Doors and Led Zeppelin and Ike Tina Turner and just all the big bands of the day. And it's an incredible festival. I think we just thought, well, it was just another pop festival. We didn't know it was going to be such a landmark seminal
Yeah.
event in history. There was actually a couple of days before that, we were playing with BB King
Hmm.
somewhere in New England. I remember that weekend. And then after the show, people started going up to Woodstock, and I just got in my Corvette and, I just took off and went back to Jersey. Never realizing it was going to be what it became.
Now you guys broke up in 1970. What happened? 1970. What happened?
Well, we at the time, I guess, everybody just developed different musical instruments. Basically, that's pretty much what it was. It happens to most bands. It's hard being in each other's company constantly, day in and day out, touring the world, recording, eating together. Sleeping in hotels together, getting up together, and it's not easy. So we kind of got on each other's nerves, and it was time to
Let
say
go.
goodbye for a while.
You tried to keep the group going then with new members, but ended up forming Boomerang. Is that right?
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I try to keep it going with Vinnie Martell, the guitar player, but it didn't feel right. So
I get that. The new bones. It's kind of like the new bones don't feel well. The new bones.
exactly, good way to put it. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, so I loved Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple, and I love that English rock sound, and I put this band together with a young guitar player by the name of Ricky Ramirez and a rhythm section. Just started writing songs. It was heavily influenced by bands like I just talked about, and we put out a record that actually, to this day, is critically acclaimed. I think it was a pretty good, edgy, rock and roll album record. So that was Boomerang. I mean, it was good in the studio, but unfortunately, live it wasn't that great because they were too inexperienced, the kids that I put together. But the biggest thing we did was open for Emerson, Lake and Palmer at the Providence Arena in 1971, I think, when they were just becoming huge. And that was the Keith Emerson, and that band completely blew me away and everybody else at that time. And yeah,
And
so
you
that's the
got
story of Boomerang.
okay. And you guys reunited in some form, but you guys just broke up a ton of times. That's it. You guys like kind of got together, and then it just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we did. We reformed, we broke up, we reformed, we broke up. And I'd say probably over the last, we reformed back in 05. And we've pretty much since then been pretty consistent doing shows, were available. So that's probably for the last 16 years. Actually, I'm leaving tomorrow for by you to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're
Yeah.
going to be playing at the Trop, and then the 15th and 16th, we're going to be at the Sony Hall in New York City with Robbie Krieger from the Doors. So yeah, it should be pretty cool.
Yeah, I would love to see you there, man.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll see you in Buffalo.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully. We're
Yeah.
gonna me and my family are actually trying to do it. We're just, after the virus, so we're just talking about it. But
Yeah, right.
like yeah,
It's like it's a little, yeah, you got to be a little,
like
gotta be
safe. You gotta
careful.
think
You gotta
about
be
it.
careful. You gotta be safe. You gotta
Yeah.
wear your mask, and just try not to be too close to people. But sometimes when you're in this environment, it's kind of hard.
Mm. Yeah, we decided, we're probably gonna go. We actually are deciding.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be up there on the Hammond and
Yeah.
singing.
Maybe I can try to take
Rocking.
some pictures of you.
That would be great.
Yeah, it would actually be my first concert in 2 years.
That's awesome. Yeah, we
Yeah.
pretty much just started playing up to 2 years too.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah.
But you were all together now, is that right? Besides Tim, rest in peace.
Yeah, Tim Bogart, rest in peace. He passed last January. And yeah, it's Carmine Appice and Vince Martell and Mark Stein, three original members. And we have Pete Bremy on bass and vocals too, who's been with us now over a decade. And yeah, I mean, people are digging it. We're still rocking. So
Isn't it ironic that the longest form of the band all came later in your life and not during the heyday when all your hits came out?
well, the thing is, it happened when we were so young. I was maybe 19, 20 years old. Basically, we were all, that's very young to have such success like that. And first fame, I call it first fame, is very difficult to deal with because it turns out to be sometimes an explosion of egos.
Mm,
and suddenly you change. Fame changes you,
mm.
because you're really too immature, for lack of a better word, to be able to handle it. So as the years go on, you learn more about life and you learn to appreciate what you had. So when you talk about fame or love is better the second time around, I think that old adage is correct.
Fame can be good when you're young, but it can also be bad because the fame can get into your head. The fame,
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So you got to be older to handle it with your mind, or else it'll get stuck right in there
Yeah, it's kind of tough when people constantly put you up on a pedestal all the time.
because the
It's
pressure can
yeah,
get to you and the fame.
it
So,
is a lot of pressure,
mm,
but some can handle it better than others. But like I said, if you're fortunate enough to enjoy success later on in years, you enjoy it more without having to deal with. I'm just humbled by the fact that
mm,
people still want to hear the band play and they still buy our merchandise and still want our autographs and still like and love our music and still interested in everything we're doing collectively and individually. So, we're very lucky in that aspect.
yeah, good for you, man. Good for you that you still
Thank
have
you.
fans that stick by your side.
Yeah, it's cool.
Mm. Now, if you guys are all stuck together back then, do you think the band would have been bigger than you are now? Than you are?
That's a good question. Probably. We probably should have just taken a little bit of a
Break
hiatus.
or
Yeah,
a
break,
vacation?
yeah. Just
Maybe
like
you guys should.
Vinnie Martell always used to say that.
Yeah.
We should have just taken a vacation and got fresh in our heads and, reformed and have a fresh approach. But, sometimes fate has its own direction,
Yeah, that is
you
true.
can't help that. So,
You started the band when you were 18. Did you ever imagine your career being as big as it is right now? As big as that is.
well, we were teenagers. We used to joke around about being pop stars. The term rock star came out later. It wasn't no rock stars, and it was pop stars. It was the British Invasion, the Beatles, and the Motown, event, the music in America, blues, and it was pop stars if you became famous. And we used to joke around in the car, imagine that we were famous, and actually we had that dream, and we worked really, really hard to achieve it, and it happened. It did happen.
Mm, definitely did. Look
Yeah,
at you now, right? Look at you now.
yeah. Look at you, man.
Yeah. Now let's talk about your time with Alice Cooper. Now you guys were playing an Australian tour. I heard the press was all over you, and you did make the band mad.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised when I did get to Australia. It was the Welcome to My Nightmare tour, which was the biggest selling tour of all time in the Southern Hemisphere in the late 70s there. So I was asked to join forces and play keyboards for that tour. And yeah, when I got there, it's true. I didn't realize that Vanilla Fudge was that popular over there. I didn't know. So a lot of the press was interviewing me, and I think some of the guys in the band weren't too happy about that. So what are you going to do? It wasn't my fault.
It wasn't your fault. Everybody was all over you. What could you do?
Yeah, what could you do?
Yeah.
But I think it led to I was promised the American tour after that, and then they got somebody else, and I think they might have had some kind of influence on why they got a
How
different
did you
keyboard
join
player,
the
but that's okay.
band? Okay. How did you join the band?
Um, well, actually, it was a late great friend of mine by the name of Bruce Gary. He was a great drummer. He played in a very famous band called the Knack in I think 1980. They had a big hit called My Sharona, and we were really good friends. And he knew I was looking for a good slot, and he had told this guitar player by the name of Dick Wagner that I was available. And Dick Wagner was with Alice Cooper for a while, wrote a bunch of his hits. So we kind of spoke on the phone, and I went to meet him, and he just, said, "You wanna join the band?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And that's how it happened.
Hey, at least you got to have that experience, you know?
It was an experience,
Mm.
all the major cities, and I think there was 50,000 people in New Zealand, I think, when we played there. It's pretty crazy.
Mm, definitely is. Definitely sounds like it.
Yeah.
Mm. Now you guys have influenced
Can I, can
countless.
I, can I put this on pause for 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
Be right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm back.
All right. I had to
Gotta
do
get some
something as well.
water.
I
Share
had to
that
go
with
do
me.
something as well, so I had to be quick.
Yeah, so we're even.
Now you have influenced a countless amount of huge bands, but the one that sticks out the most is Led Zeppelin.
Yeah,
Do you
Led
think,
Zeppelin.
yeah, do you think Led Zeppelin would be as big without your help?
Probably. I mean, I can't, that would be pretty outrageous condescending to say that, but I will say this, in 1968, when the Fudge were really popular, uh, Jimmy Page had broke up the Yardbirds and came to America
Mm.
with who were then unknowns, John Paul Jones and John Bonham and Robert Plant. And they had Jimmy put this band together. He called it Led Zeppelin, and we were label mates. They signed a deal, and the first time they played in America was opening for Vanilla Fudge in 1968. So in the beginning, they were starting out, they were a little spastic and wet behind the ears, and we ended up playing a whole bunch of shows together and a couple of tours. And I think, we're probably influenced by our dynamics and the power that we had, on our live shows. But before long, they became amazing very fast, very fast, and they were just incredible. If anybody was fortunate enough to see Led Zeppelin at the end of '68, going into 1969, when it was the most incredibly powerful, raw, passionate rock and roll band that ever walked the earth, in my opinion. They were really lucky and fortunate to have seen that. So
Yeah, they were
yeah,
very lucky, but sad what happened to them, you know? Very sad what happened to them.
sad when it happened. What to Bonzo, John Bonham?
Yeah, about
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
I was in Tokyo when that happened.
Mm.
I was touring with Dave Mason.
Mm.
Doing a Japanese store when I heard the news that John Bonham had died. And I was like, whoa, I was really shocked. Yeah, that was very sad. Yeah. And that was the end of Zeppelin.
Mm.
That's one thing about the English bands, they were just very loyal to each other.
Mm.
And they felt like they really didn't want to go on without Bonzo, So I always really respected that. I mean, they did things together, but not truly as Zeppelin,
It's nothing like the old thing, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Tell me how you hooked up with Michael Jackson.
Oh, that's a cool story. Well, talking about Dave Mason, I guess it was 1980 when I was recording an album with him in LA, and it was at a studio called Hollywood Sound, and I got up to take a break and walked into the lobby, and I saw Michael Jackson leaning up against the soda machine. And I went up and I introduced him. This was right after he had that multi-platinum album, Off the Wall. In between, Thriller hadn't come out yet, but he was like, really famous, and I was like, whoa. The Jacksons were down the hall in another studio, so he was doing some work with them. So I had this light bulb went off in my head. I said, I introduced myself, and I said, Michael, would you want to come in the studio, because we have a track that's got the same kind of groove as some of the stuff on your album Off the Wall. And he was really cool when he came in, and I told the engineer to put up the track. It was called Save Me. And he started snapping his fingers and dancing all around the console. And I said, dude, why don't you why don't you go in the studio? The mic out there, put the headphones on. Let's have some fun with the track. So we did. He went out and he put the phones on, they put the track up, and he, in one take, he completely amazed and blew us away. And he scattered and sang all this stuff on this track called Save Me. So you can Google it, you can hear it, anybody can hear it. It's Dave Mason and Michael Jackson and Mark Stein, the three singers on this track. And I played some Hammond on it too. It was really cool. And then he came back in the studio and he was really happy. And he said, well, I got to go now. And he disappeared into the evening. And that's how that happened.
So what version of Michael you were dealing with? What version?
What version?
Yeah.
Well, if you're talking about all that plastic surgery and stuff.
Oh no, so no Monkey at the time then?
No. I mean, at the time, to me, he was just the king of pop. He was just an incredibly talented singer. He was Michael Jackson. Wow. There was nothing negative. I was thrilled to meet him and thrilled that he came in the studio and ended up doing what he did.
Now I know you guys toured with Cream, but did you did not get along with them? Is that right? You guys did not really get along.
Yeah, there was some problems. I don't know. It was a weird thing between, I think, Ginger Baker. I don't know. He had some problems with the band. He didn't like our music or whatever it was. But we played a couple of shows in Texas, and the shows actually went really well. And Eric Clapton was always a gentleman, and Jack Bruce was actually he was a great singer and musician. He was a pretty intense guy, and Ginger was he was a little hard to get along with, to be honest. So anyway, but we always, you know what, Vanilla Fudge got on great with Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and a lot of the English bands, but Cream was the only one that we never did get on with.
What was Ginger Baker's beef with you?
You know what? I really don't know. I really never knew. All I know is when we got off the plane, I went to shake his hand. He refused to shake my hand, and it really angered me.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what it was. I think maybe because
you were famous.
Huh?
You were more famous than him.
Maybe it didn't approve of the fact that we weren't writing our own songs at the time. There were some bands that resented that, in the beginning, but I think maybe some of them failed to realize that the way we reimagined other people's songs and made them our own was really what brought us the fame in the early days.
Yeah, he sounds like a real red hair. Sounds like a real red hair.
Yeah. So listen, I got a meeting coming up in about 15 minutes. So I hate to cut you short.
Oh, no, that's all right, man.
You got another question or two?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Can you go for 4 more?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I just yeah.
It's all right, man. It's all right. You are very vocal about not being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is that right? You guys are not very that vocal about it.
Well, I'm vocal about it. A lot of our fans are very vocal about it because it shouldn't be about how many #1 hits you had. I mean, I think it should be about your influences. And I think Vanilla Fudge was there at the beginning of classic rock, and we influenced bands like Uriah Heep and Deep Purple, and bands like even Led Zeppelin in a way, and Styx, yes. So, in my opinion, I just think we should be in there. I think there's a lot of people that feel the same.
What is your favorite memory from playing a show? What is your favorite memory?
Probably one of my favorite memories was playing live on the Ed Sullivan Show in the late 60s, because when you played the Ed Sullivan Show, you were in everybody's living room at, I think it was either 8 or 9 o'clock on a Sunday evening, and you became a household word, okay? Everybody saw you, man. You became instantly famous, So we were on our way up the ladder, but when you hit the Ed Sullivan Show, that put you over the top. So it was like for a month, everywhere after that you were seeing on the street or going into a store, everybody recognized it because of that show. Not to mention that our records would jump way up on the charts. Our albums would go like jump like as much as 30 points in 1 week with a bullet, they used to call it. In
Wow.
Billboard and Cashbox. Yeah.
It-
So it enhanced it was a fabulous thing to do in those days.
Well,
So
hey,
that
good
was,
for you, man. It's
yeah,
wonderful.
that was probably one of my, that always sticks out in my memory.
Do you have a worst memory from playing a show? Or a really bad time?
Probably, you know what? I have to talk about that, but you know what? Probably one of the worst memories was when we played the Fillmore, when the band was actually breaking up and we weren't, we were getting a little stale. I remember being, I was a little, I felt some despair over the fact that in a place where we used to sell out, suddenly the crowds were getting really small, and I knew that the end was near
Mhm.
at that time. So that was a hard nut for me to swallow. I remember that. Yeah.
What is next for you? What is next for your band? Hello? Are you there? Well, thank you for being on my show, man. I hope the next time it talks at the backstage and one of your shows, dude. Yeah, thank you for the interview. Hope you can see this. So thank you, man. Have a good one.